Benvenuti in questa seconda giornata del Convegno Nazionale di Comunicazione della Scienza. Vi do il benvenuto anche da parte della SISSA e di Latte in particolare. Prima di lasciare la parola a chi introdurrà questo panel, vi ricordo semplicemente di per favore mantenere le distanze di sicurezza e di cercare di tenere la mascherina all'interno degli spazi chiusi. E insomma fare un po' di attenzione visto il periodo e i numeri che stanno salendo. Detto questo, io vi ringrazio di essere qua, do il benvenuto in particolare a chi è arrivato oggi a Trieste e lascio subito la parola ad Andrea Rubin di Observa Science Society, che introdurrà e presenterà la session di oggi, la prima session di oggi. E buon ascolto a tutti.
Buongiorno a tutti, io appunto benvenuti intanto a questa prima sessione della mattinata del terzo giorno del Convegno Nazionale di Comunicazione della Scienza. Appunto, come ha detto Marina, io sono Andrea Rubin, sono un sociologo e mi occupo appunto di comunicazione pubblica della scienza e ho il piacere di introdurre questa prima tavola rotonda appunto che dal titolo Nuove audience, sfide, successi e fallimenti dei social nella comunicazione della ricerca, e è un tema che insomma quanto mai di attualità e soprattutto di interesse per la nostra comunità che si occupa appunto di comunicare la ricerca attraverso anche nuove piattaforme e nuovi strumenti digitali. Lascio la parola a Giada Rossi che modererà l'incontro. Giada è astrofisica, no? Corretto? Di formazione, la comunicatrice e la divulgatrice, e presenterà lei gli speaker di oggi. Al termine della tavola rotonda potremo fare delle domande. Già da tempo.
Okay. So, first of all, this roundtable will be in English, and you'll understand why in a second. So first of all, thank you all for being here. It's truly a pleasure to be here, especially to be here in person. I will now introduce our panelists, our guests of today. Starting from my right, Francesca Mazzotta. She is in charge of social media at INFM, which is the Italian Institute for Nuclear Physics, which coordinates research in this field in Italy. Then we have connected from us remotely from CERN, Kate Cale, who is a digital editor of CERN. I think you all know, but CERN is a European institution for nuclear research. And then on my left, I have Vincenzo Napolano, who is the communication responsible of EGO, the European Gravitational Observatory, which is the institution that hosts the Virgo interferometer, which is one of the 3 gravitational wave detectors in the world. So now that I have introduced our guests, I will leave them for a brief introduction of their work that will also start touching upon some topics that will be of interest to us. After their presentation, I will straight away open the floor to questions. So while they speak, if something comes to mind, hold on to it, because just after they're done, you will be able to ask questions, and we will start the discussion, and we would like it to be interactive. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. So I think we can start from Kate Cale in the presentation.
Oh, super. Let me just check. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. So good morning, everyone. As Giada mentioned, I'm here at CERN, here in the Large Hadron Collider tunnel. Well, not quite, but nice background. And I'm going to be talking a bit about what CERN, the European Laboratory for Particle Physics, does in terms of social media. So for those of you that are maybe not so familiar with CERN, we are the home of the Large Hadron Collider, which is the largest machine in the world. It's 100 meters underground and a 27-kilometer circle, with particles traveling at about 11,000 times a second, making it fastest racetrack on the planet. It's also the birthplace of the World Wide Web. So in 1989, Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web while at CERN. I'm going to talk to you about social media. So in terms of the journey that CERN has had on social media, we began in 2007. We were one of the first institutes to come onto YouTube in 2007. Then just before we started, our English language.
Hey, we lost you for a second, so if you can start again, just this social media part.
Oh yeah, sure. So we were one of the first laboratories to use YouTube. So we were on YouTube in 2007. Then in 2008, just before we started the Large Hadron Collider, we sent out our first tweet on Twitter. And then a year later, we added a French channel. So CERN is a bilingual institute of English and French. So we have both English and French on Twitter. In 2011, we moved on to Facebook, then 2012, LinkedIn, and 2014, we moved to Instagram. You'll notice in the bottom of this slide, I also mentioned Google+. So we used Google+ from 2012 until 2016. What we noticed was that our engagement was declining, our audience was declining, and so we took the decision at that point to see that it didn't make sense to invest resources, and so we closed our Google+ channel at that time. We've also done a few things on Reddit as well. We've done some Ask Me Anythings, and I'm happy to talk more about the different initiatives we've done. In terms of our strategy, we've got three main strands. One is to begin a journey. What we tend to do with our social media posts is we have a link to our website. Our aim is to draw people to the website to find out more information. We also want to foster engagement. We want people to understand more about the laboratory and create really an online community that are passionate about CERN. And we want to retain positive sentiment. We want to see what people are saying about us. We want to address negative comments constructively and keep this strong brand identity online. In terms of what we do on social media, this is just a few things that we do. The main aspects are to showcase latest news, but we're also looking to show impact that we have on society, to reach people that we might normally reach with stories about how we're making a difference to their day-to-day lives. We also have a lot of regular content. So on Wednesdays, we have photo of the week. On Thursdays, we use a photo from our archive. And on Fridays, we get people to guess what a particular image shows. One of the important things that we've worked on over time is to really change the content depending on the channel. So you can see, for example, the image here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but where it's tap to know why. So this is an Instagram story, and it's very different in style to, for example, what we're putting on Twitter, which is more factual news. We also want to connect with different audiences, and to do that means working with influencers either within our community or outside of our community. So working with cultural influencers or influencers in science, technology, also politics. So we recently have, we have high-level visits and showcasing these and showcasing our collaborations. We do lots of live performances that we stream to YouTube and to Facebook. We also do Instagram questions and answers with short videos. And although it's not from CERN directly. Some of our community have also moved into TikTok, and the CERN Courier, I've put here at the bottom an article where they're looking at how different scientists from the particle physics community are using TikTok. The way we work with our scientists is those that are very passionate about social media. They're very often on Twitter. So on Twitter, we have a private messaging group where we work with the scientists, we give them information in advance, we discuss with them. And scientists really are fantastic ambassadors for us because they're legitimate, they're passionate about what they do, and they're real people, and so they can really reach out in addition to the official channels that we have. So in summary, what we're doing is we're sending out news, facts, human stories, different campaigns. We're doing live performances, we're doing Instagram stories, photos and videos, sometimes with humor, sometimes professional, depending on the content. We're reaching not just the scientific community, but also the general public, and using those influencers to reach new audiences as we go. And using analytics to see what's working and what isn't, and then changing our strategy when we need to. And social media is really an extension of real life, so it makes sense to use it and to constantly evolve with it. So that's everything from me.
Thank you very much. So now we will share the screen and go to Francesca Mazzotto's presentation. Hold on a second. All right.
So, good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about what we do at INFN and social media, so on INFN institutional channels. So just to give you a brief overview, we are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our latest account that we created was Instagram, that we created in January 2017, and I'm kind of like I take particular care of Instagram because it's the channel that we created since I came to work at INFN, so I followed it from the beginning till now, and I saw how the trends changed through time. So we have like a different audience on each of these social media and a different size of audience. But what's most important is who we are talking to on all the different social media accounts. As you can see, most of our followers are men, even if we do like campaigns targeted at the role of women in science and the importance of women in science, still most of our followers are men. We are trying to equalize the base, but it's actually we haven't found yet the perfect recipe. And then what you can see also is that the age of our follower on Instagram is lower than the age of our follower on Facebook. And this is especially, this is even stronger when we look at our follower on YouTube. Because on YouTube, the vast majority of our followers is under 24 years old. So taking like seeing who we are talking to, we have to adapt our communication to the different channels. So we cannot do on Facebook what we do on Instagram because the audience is not the same and the characteristics of the social media themselves are not the same. So I will just give you a brief overview and then we can talk more about it in the discussion questions. So what do we talk about? We talk about scientific news because what we do on social media is also strongly related to our press office work. So a big part of our work is related to the news. And this is mainly true for Facebook and Twitter. While on Instagram, the focus of our account, if you go and have a look on our Instagram feeds, are experiments, because we found that what's in common in our institute, from like experiments that look at the very tiny particles to experiments that look at stars and black holes and stuff like this, what's in common are like the technologies, the big experiments that we use to study the universe, or the infinitely small. Also on Instagram, when we have to talk about scientific news, what we try to do is to always find a nice picture of an experiment to relate it to the news. And if we do not find a nice picture, we do not have like a post on our feed, but we talk about it in the stories, because we want our feed to be consistent. And also what we do is we do a lot of institutional communication. So this is mainly on Twitter. So if there's like someone, like a minister coming to visit one of our labs, we follow his visit mainly on Twitter. And we do a lot of like engagement campaigns, outreach communication campaigns on YouTube and Facebook, as well as on Instagram. And here is an example of a campaign we did last year that's called like Fisica tra le onde, so physics among the waves. And what we do is we try to celebrate like big events on our social media accounts as well, like with a little bit of humor. For example, like this year, there were big celebrations in Italy for Dante. And we did like a campaign on Instagram about Dante and modern science. Or for example, every year for Christmas, we do like a nice humor video about like a scientific topics explained in a funny way with like jingle bells and all like Christmas related themes. So because we try to like keep it actual. But social media are not about telling people how cool we are. We have to engage with people, we have to interact with them, and this is why since 2017 we started doing like hosting live events on our social media accounts. First we started with Facebook, and now we're doing live events also on YouTube and Instagram. And during these live events, people have the chance to ask questions directly to our researchers. And here I have like one final slide that shows that the live events we do, for example, on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook are slightly different, because this is like these are two live events we hosted for some great results that were announced last May about an experiment that's called Neon G-2. On Facebook and YouTube, there was a live where there were like the spokesperson and researchers that had like an important role in the experiment. While on Instagram, it was much more informal. We had like young PhD students explaining their results to the audience, just to make the audience closer to the people, to the researchers that were speaking. And I think this is all from me, and then I have questions. Then go with it.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kate, Francesca, Giada. And of course, as Giada said, I'm in charge of the communication of the European Gravitational Observatory. That is, let's say, the institutional home of Virgo, the one of the three most sensitive and large gravitational wave detector in the world. This is an image of Virgo on the countryside of Pisa. EGO was founded in 2000, and of course we are, and Virgo, let's say, become famous starting from 2015 after the discovery of gravitational wave, together with LIGO in the US. And of course we are in a quite different situation respect to CERN and FM, that from my point of view are a kind of reference model for social media activity. Because we are, let's say, the gravitational wave community is a community that experienced an incredible growth in the last 6 years. I think that, and I hope also that this will be a case study for a community that grows, a scientific community that grows so quickly in few years. And quite naturally, this community, of course, found and search a place also and a visibility in the social media. And Virgo and Higo share the same, from my point of view, more or less the same thing, the institutional and the scientific collaboration of the same experiment. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. The number of followers are quite different from the one of CERN and INFN. Facebook, we have more or less 6,000 followers. Twitter 12,000, and Instagram more or less the same. We share the Instagram account with LIGO. The point is that these social media accounts are in some sense, first of all, targeted, at least historically, are targeted first of all to the community, to the same community, to the scientific community or people very close to this community. And this makes this, let's say, our follower, our target, very, very alive, very lively in terms of engagement. But at the same time, it's very difficult to, let's say, to target at the same time the community and the general public. That is also our aim. I show here an example of our last announcement a few weeks ago about the last catalog of gravitational waves in 2020. LIGO and Virgo detected almost 70 gravitational wave signals, and we published this the second published catalog a few weeks ago. But the point here is that in terms of engagement, it's interesting from my point of view that LIGO, that has almost 100,000 followers, so 10 times more than us, than Virgo and Higo. In terms of engagement, let's say, there is not so much difference among between the likes and the retweet and the large audience that we reach with our posts. Yes, in my presentation, I will focus very quickly on some critical points that I will just put on the table, and then let's for the discussion. So, as I say, the first target is in some sense the same community. So we regularly update, make update about the upgrade work that are going now on the 3 detectors, but try to do this in some way involving also a larger audience. But that's quite critical and difficult, as you can imagine. In some cases, this is a post about the celebration of the discovery of the 2 neutron star merger that happened in 2017. And in this case, we try to focus on something, the celebration of a crucial event for the community that could also be an occasion for communication to a larger audience. The neutron star merger, what it means, what is the role in astronomy, the role of this discovery in astronomy, and so on. And in some other case, we started also, this is, okay, a very special occasion, the April fall of past year, in which we made a joke about gravitational waves that will be used to put again right the Tower of Pisa. That's of course is a joke, but it's open to an audience that is of course different from the scientists. It is not trivial to make the scientists accept that, okay, the social media could be the place in which we let interact and meet the community with a very large, a very more wide audience, a larger audience, a broader audience. And that's more or less the point that I think the crucial point of our work in these months. Could become social media a place in which we really allow the scientific community of gravitational waves meet the general public, a place where they can potentially interact and find new communication form, new way to tell and tell and retell, if you want, the story of gravitational wave and the content of gravitational wave. For all this, we have to consider that on the background, we have, of course, that the story of gravitational wave is now a mainstream story. So we have traditional media and all the media that in some way are involved in this story and continue to tell this story. So the point is social media are just a place where we tell the story in the same way, or are able to find new kind of interaction and storytelling. A crucial point about that is also how we represent the individual, the single scientist, but also the collaboration of the social. And this is crucial because, of course, the social individual need spaces to work, but the collaboration needs to represent the variety, the diversity, and the different contributions that are crucial for the progress of scientific knowledge. Okay, this is a point that perhaps we can discuss it later if you are interested. So how you put on the social media the very let's say the news related to the more specific problems and scientific complications that sometimes are on archive and are not yet officially published. And the last point, the last critical point that I will just touch, and again, just put on the table for the discussion, is how to represent in a continuous way, how to tell the scientific research that often is made just of work in progress, of short steps, and not of big discovery, of crucial discoveries, in the continuous flow of the social media. Are the social media a good place for making this? I guess yes, they can, but okay, that's just an open question. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks to, wait, I will stop sharing the screen. All right, so thanks to our panelists for this introduction. Now, if there are questions already, I will leave the floor to questions. Yes.
Thank you. I'm very curious to understand why in YouTube the age is lower. So why young people is looking at YouTube and what they are sending on YouTube, so that teenagers and young people, because these are one of the most difficult audiences. So I'm very much interested in how you get.
Actually, I do not have like a real answer to this question, but I think like what the data that I showed are the data of people that subscribe to our channel. And what I feel is that young people used to subscribe a lot to channels and to use really YouTube as a social media. I do not have the data of people that actually watch our videos regularly, but are not subscribed to our channel. What we post, basically, like YouTube is still the account we have where we are doing more trials. So we are working with trial and error, what works, what doesn't. During the pandemics in 2020, actually what we did is we did lots of live events for schools on YouTube. So we did like a project that was called Particle Land, where we were explaining all topics related to particle physics to a school audience. So I think lots of students subscribe to our channel because of this initiative. But really what I feel is that from like the experience is that young people tend to subscribe a lot to YouTube channels rather than to go on YouTube and search for something. I don't know if this explains your...
Okay, if there are other questions. Yes, we have another one.
Okay, I have a question in particular for Vincenzo. One of the problems of physics, the communication of physics is often we can't see the subject of physics. Okay, for example, gravitational waves, but also particles, and so on. We can see the machine, but we can see in an optical way the subject. I think that it's important for this reason to propose an alternative storytelling, in particular for gravitational waves. How do you address this problem? if you do?
Yes, this is, of course, this is a quite crucial problem in communication of fundamental physics. You are perfectly right. I did not mention all the work of, let's say, visualization that you can do through videos, through animation, through, of course, let's say, there is a work of visualization of how to say, yes, make visible what we really cannot see. That is continuous, that I work on that also with Francesca and FM before. I'm working still on gravitational wave. That is complementary to the work. Now we are focusing more just to, let's say, the dynamics of social media. Of course, there are content. We have to fill our social media strategy with contents, and these contents are one of the main efforts that we will do. For instance, we are now producing an infographic about the upgrade of the machine, for explaining what we are doing on the gravitational detector. But at the same time, we are working on animation that try to visualize, as you said. This is, I consider this a continuous effort that is crucial for mainstream communication, for media communication, for exhibition. So these are content that could be shared among the different media and among the different platforms, you know. And of course, often we work also with Giada. Giada actually we work together on social media figure and years ago for producing such kind of content. So yes, it's one of the crucial efforts that we do.
Right.
I don't know if Kate wants to add something about that, because even at SEM, that's a crucial part.
Yeah, it's a similar situation for us, and we have a fantastic graphic design team who help us with animations, with illustrations. We also have the advantage that the different experiments around the Large Hadron Collider can produce these fantastic event displays. So we do have something visual that we can use on social media. So we are lucky in that respect, but we do need to work a lot with the graphic designers to create content, like you say.
Yes.
I just wanted to add something. Really sorry, but I don't know if you want to ask your question. No. I just wanted to add something related to this, because before I told you that the focus of our account were experiments of our Instagram account. This is not the case that the focus are experiments, because the rest is really hard to show. It's really hard to show, like tiny particles or like gravitational waves. So what we have that people can see is actually the technology. So that's why we show experiments on our Instagram account.
All right, thank you.
I'm Viviana Battaglia, work for the Quantum Technology Education Coordination Support Action. And I have a question for Kate, actually. And I wanted to know, how do you at CERN differentiate your content for different targets and different problems?
So thank you, great question. So in fact, we tend to have the same story across the channels, but we will change the language a little bit. What we've seen over time, similar to what INFN was showing with the different audiences, we have got to know our audiences on the different channels, and we also have slightly different voices on the different channels. So I kind of joke within the team that our Twitter channel is a little bit like a kind of a father figure who makes wordplay jokes now and then when it makes sense. And the Instagram is a little bit like the little sister. And so we tend to think, okay, how would the different channels pass this one story? And we just change a little bit the emphasis, the language, the visuals, just bearing in mind these different characters that we have on our different channels. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you, Kate. Do we have other questions? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Claudio Carlani, historian of the
Foundation. My question is for you all. So, about the relationship with your public and your follower. Do you have some policies, or for example, do you have a bad comment on Twitter? Did you answer or not? And so this is the question.
Who wants to answer?
Actually, this problem happened to us twice. Like we had two stories in which like we had that comment. What we did, we gave only one answer to all the comments. So we gave the official voice of the institute just once. We did not reply to all the comments. And what happens sometimes, especially when we do YouTube lives with schools, is that we get lots of inappropriate comments. So what we do at the beginning of the live, we write what the policy of like the moderation of comments is, so that we can delete inappropriate comments. Or sometimes there are things that are really not relevant or things that are just not nice to read. And we write our policy on top of the comments of the video so that we can delete all the comments. But with the news, it happened to us only twice that we had like attacks of haters and stuff like this. And in that case, we gave only one comment and we sent an email to our researchers to tell how to not to answer to these people and stuff.
Okay. Anyone else wants to? Okay.
Yeah. So we deal with it in different ways. We have guidelines for the CERN community of how to behave on social media, so how to engage with debates constructively and to not be insulting. So we sometimes have to, when we're checking the discussions on social media, we will see that someone within our community has behaved inappropriately, so we will remind them about the social media guidelines. So that's from within the community. We have a similar thing to INFN with the comment policy that we say anything offensive or inappropriate will be removed. If we see that we are regularly getting bad comments from a particular account, we will block that account from the channel. Other things we do are we sometimes replying as CERN to a hot topic can be difficult because we often have to get a lot of approvals internally with the messaging. So sometimes we go for an approach where we're faster, where we use personal accounts. So either our personal accounts to engage in the discussion, and it's not as visible as the voice of CERN replying, or we will get scientists from our community of active social media scientists to also engage, and it deals with the hot topic in a more constructive way. So we have different ways of doing it.
Right, thank you. Do you want to add something? No. Okay, are there other questions? Okay, yes?
Do you have 4 minutes, so do you have a question?
Okay, I will ask a question then. So we have touched upon a lot of important and topics of controversy, of challenges. And what I want to ask you is what you feel in your work is one of the most current challenges of social media. What do you think is an untapped potential for the future? Something that you think fundamental research communication on social media can still improve, can still achieve? So maybe just one thing that you think is very, a current challenge in what you do.
Like that.
Yeah.
What I find more challenging actually is to be always up to date, because like when we do something, that works. Do you hear me? Okay. When we do something that works, it doesn't mean that in 2 months it's gonna work again, because social media are always changing. So what is the most challenging thing to me is like to try to understand what the trends are, what people are, what they want to read, what's working, what's not. And actually, when we learn to do something, we have to start learning again something else, because what we learned before doesn't work anymore. So I think that most challenging thing about working with social media is being up to date. And that's, for example, now we should maybe think of going on TikTok, but how do we go there? What's the strategy? We don't know. So I think that's the challenge.
Okay.
I would agree with that, it is the challenge to stay up to date. Also, what we find is that the platforms tend to change things in the way that we can post content. So we're just encountering issues with our YouTube channel, that a lot of the permissions behind the scenes, YouTube Studio has come in, and it meant that we weren't able to go live recently on YouTube because they had changed the way they work. So we're still resolving this with YouTube. So it's things like this, it's unexpected changes, like Francesca was saying, what worked 1 month ago suddenly is blocked because changes have happened to the platform. So that can be frustrating. Also, working out what makes sense for the organization. So there's many different channels that come up. You know, when Snapchat was there, we thought, how could CERN be on Snapchat? What could we do? And these channels come and go, and we see, in fact, that we stuck with Instagram, and Instagram started to take a lot of the ideas of Snapchat and incorporate them into their channels. So we were happy that we had stuck with Instagram because we could build our following on that channel. Every time you start on a new channel, you have to build your following from zero. So it's challenging, and you have to feed these channels. So we tend to concentrate just on the main ones, just to stay focused.
Just a short. No, in the discussion that we had together a couple of weeks ago, it came out, I think it was quite funny that all of us are thinking about TikTok. So all of us are wondering if we have to go to TikTok as an institution. And I guess, but for sure the guess will be wrong, as any guess about the future, that this will be the short-term challenge for the scientific institution like us. To understand if we can really have character inside our institution that could also say, open this new world for us of social media.
Okay, so I think we don't have any more time, sadly. So the ones of us that are in person, we are still here if you want to talk more. So I thank all of our panelists for being here with us, and Kate for connecting with us. And I thank you all for coming here. It was a pleasure. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.